In the stillness of the early morning, when the world is quiet and your thoughts echo the loudest, there exists a question that has lingered in the hearts of philosophers and sages for centuries. What does it mean to live in truth? The Stoics, with their sharp reasoning and unshakable resilience, teach us that truth is not simply what is perceived, but what is lived. And at the foundation of such a life lies an essential cornerstone: faith. Faith is often misunderstood as mere belief in the unseen, something divorced from reason. But the Stoics knew better. Faith, in its truest form, is not the enemy of reason, it is its companion. It is the presupposition, the silent agreement we make with ourselves and the universe before we even begin to live according to truth. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." These words carry within them an undeniable assumption: faith in the path ahead. Imagine a farmer who plants seeds in the soil. Does he know with certainty that the rains will come, that the sun will rise, that the soil will nourish his crop? No, but he acts. He plants the seeds because he has faith, not in blind optimism, but in the order of things, the natural rhythm of life. In the same way, every meaningful action we take rests on an unspoken act of faith. When you strive for wisdom, when you seek courage, when you pursue justice, you act on the faith that these virtues are worth pursuing, that they will bear fruit in your character, if not in your immediate circumstances. To live without faith is to stand paralyzed at the crossroads of life, questioning every step, every outcome, and every motive. The Stoic knows that the outcome is not fully in his control, but his actions are. Faith in the process becomes his guiding star. The Stoics spoke often of the logos, the rational principle governing the cosmos. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "All things are woven together and the common bond is sacred." To have faith is to trust in this logos, to believe that there is an order, even when chaos seems to prevail. It doesn't mean ignoring suffering or dismissing hardship. It means recognizing that beneath every storm cloud, there remains an unshakable order to existence. You might ask, but how can I have faith when the world is full of suffering, betrayal, and loss? The Stoics would remind you that faith is not about denying suffering. It's about understanding it. Faith allows us to look at hardship and say, this too serves a purpose. This too is part of the order. In every misfortune, there is an opportunity to grow. In every loss, there is a lesson. Faith allows you to step back and trust that even in your darkest moments, the universe is not conspiring against you, it is shaping you. The Stoic must first have faith in themselves. Seneca reminds us, "It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare. It is because we do not dare that things are difficult." Self-doubt is the enemy of progress. If you lack faith in your ability to endure, to persevere, or to overcome, you have already lost the battle. Faith in oneself is not arrogance. It is the quiet acknowledgement of your own capacity for strength, wisdom, and resilience. Ask yourself, have I not endured hardship before? Have I not faced uncertainty and emerged stronger? To doubt yourself is to doubt the very tools given to you by nature, the mind, the spirit, and the will. Faith in yourself is not based on perfect certainty, but on the recognition that you have faced the storm before, and you will face it again. The Stoic doesn't need perfect clarity about the path ahead. They need faith in their ability to walk it, step by step. Truth is not merely an intellectual pursuit. It is a way of being. The Stoics emphasized orthos logos, right reason, but reason alone cannot carry us across the chasm of uncertainty. Faith acts as the bridge. Without faith, we fall into paralysis. We become consumed by hesitation, fearing every choice as if it might destroy us. But faith that truth exists, faith that the path of virtue is worth walking, this faith allows us to act. To live in truth requires faith, because truth is not always comfortable. It demands sacrifice. It demands confrontation with our flaws and failures. It demands that we stand firm even when the winds of public opinion blow against us. But faith is not passive. It is not sitting still and hoping for the best. It is active. It is lived through every choice, every word, and every deed. The Stoics remind us of our mortality, not to fill us with dread, but to sharpen our focus. Marcus Aurelius often reflected on death, not as an end, but as a reminder to live with purpose. Faith gives us the courage to face our mortality head-on. It allows us to say, If today is my last day, I will meet it with dignity and peace. Without faith, death becomes a terror, a shadow lurking in every corner. But with faith, faith in the order of the universe, faith in the legacy of our actions, faith in the integrity of our character, death becomes nothing more than a transition. To live in fear of death is to die 1,000 times before your final breath. To have faith is to live fully, embracing each moment as a gift. Gratitude flows naturally from faith. When you trust in the universe, when you believe in your own capacity to endure, you begin to see life itself as a gift. The Stoics practiced gratitude daily, not as a fleeting emotion, but as a discipline. Marcus Aurelius would list the things he was grateful for each day, from the people around him to the lessons he learned through adversity. Gratitude strengthens faith. When you recognize the good that exists even amidst the bad, you reinforce your trust in the order of things. Faith is not an escape from reason. It is the foundation upon which reason stands. It is not weakness. It is strength. It is not blindness. It is vision. To live in truth is to live courageously, honestly, and with unwavering faith in the principles that guide you. The Stoic does not demand certainty, they demand integrity. So have faith not in fleeting outcomes, not in guarantees of comfort, but in the enduring power of virtue, reason, and resilience. In the end, to have faith is to declare to the universe, I may not know what lies ahead, but I trust the path I walk. In every life, there comes a moment when the weight of our choices reveals itself. The Stoics were clear. Reality is not something to be bargained with, avoided, or manipulated. It is a force that operates with relentless consistency, indifferent to our excuses, fears, or clever words. You might ask yourself, why bother living in the truth? It's an honest question, one worth pausing over. After all, the path of truth is not always easy. It requires sacrifice, courage, and a willingness to face discomfort. But there's a simple and unavoidable answer, because the alternative is far worse. When you live in deception, when you lie to others, to yourself, or attempt to twist reality to suit your desires, you are not escaping consequences. You are merely postponing them, and postponed consequences have a way of returning with compounded interest. Reality, as the Stoics remind us, is not something we can escape. Seneca put it plainly, fate leads the willing and drags along the reluctant. If you refuse to align yourself with truth, reality will eventually rise up and smite you, not out of malice, but because that is its nature. At first, the consequences of deception are subtle. A small lie here and evasion there. Perhaps you tell yourself you'll fix it later, that the cost is small, that no one will notice. But the Stoics understood the danger of these cracks in one's integrity. Deception is like rust on steel. It starts imperceptibly, a tiny blemish on the surface. But over time, it eats away at the core of your character. It weakens your resolve. It erodes your clarity. You cannot deceive reality any more than you can deceive your own soul. When your actions are out of alignment with the truth, you are at war with yourself. Every decision becomes heavier, every consequence sharper, and every failure more bitter. And when reality does strike back, as it inevitably will, it strikes with precision. The Stoic does not see this as punishment, but as correction. It is reality pulling you back to alignment, however painful the lesson may be. Consider a man who builds a house on a foundation of lies. Each lie is a brick, weak and unstable. At first, the house seems solid. It stands, it shelters, and it convinces others of its strength. But time is unyielding, and storms are inevitable. When the rains come and the winds howl, the foundation will crumble. And when it does, it will not fall quietly. It will collapse catastrophically. The same is true of our lives. Living in deception might offer temporary relief, temporary advantage, or temporary comfort. But eventually the bill comes due. To live in truth, then, is not merely a moral imperative, it is a practical one. It is the recognition that integrity is not just about being good, it is about being aligned. It is about building a life that can withstand the storms of reality, because it is rooted in something unshakable. The Stoics remind us that while we cannot control all external outcomes, we can control our internal alignment. To live in truth is to ensure that, regardless of what happens around us, we remain steadfast. Deception is often born from fear. Fear of consequences, fear of judgment, fear of pain. But the Stoics teach us to face our fears head-on. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind. not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. The avoidance of truth does not eliminate fear. It amplifies it. Every lie, every evasion, and every act of self-deception adds another weight to the burden you carry. You might succeed in avoiding the consequences for a time, but the weight grows heavier with every step. And eventually it will break you, not because reality is cruel, but because it is consistent. To live in truth is to lay that burden down. It is to accept the clarity, simplicity, and freedom that comes with aligning yourself with what is real, rather than clinging to illusions. In the chaos of life, truth becomes a lifeline. When the storm rages and the path ahead is unclear, truth is the rope you can cling to, the one thing that will not break, no matter how fierce the wind. The Stoic knows that living in truth is not about guaranteeing success or avoiding suffering. It is about ensuring that whatever happens, your soul remains intact. When you act in alignment with truth, you remove unnecessary suffering from your life. You eliminate the dread of being caught in a lie, the exhaustion of maintaining falsehoods, and the shame of knowing you betrayed your own principles. Truth in this way is not just an external standard, it is an internal refuge. Why bother living in the truth? Because the alternative is a slow erosion of everything that matters: your character, your peace of mind, and your ability to face yourself in the mirror. The Stoics did not promise an easy life. They did not claim that living in truth would prevent hardship or misfortune. But they did promise this: if you align yourself with truth, if you act with integrity and courage, you will face reality as an equal, not as a victim. In the end, the choice is simple: live in truth and bear its challenges with dignity, or live in deception and bear the inevitable consequences with regret. The Stoic chooses truth not because it is easy, but because it is right. So ask yourself, am I building my life on truth or am I building on sand? Choose wisely, for reality is patient, but it is also relentless. It's a question that has haunted humanity since the dawn of self-awareness. What is the purpose of life? The Stoics, in their wisdom, approached this question with clarity and sobriety. They did not indulge in grand illusions or fleeting sentiments. They understood that the answer is neither simple nor universal, and yet they found principles that could guide every individual toward a meaningful existence. But let us address a common answer first: the pursuit of happiness. When people are asked about the purpose of life, they often respond, to be happy. On the surface, it sounds reasonable. After all, who doesn't want to be happy? But the Stoics would argue that this answer is, at best, incomplete and, at worst, self-defeating. Happiness as an end in itself is an impossibility. Happiness is not something you can aim directly at and expect to hit. It's not a target, it's a byproduct, a fleeting side effect of living in alignment with your values, with reason and with virtue. To make happiness your sole aim is to chase a shadow. The more you run towards it, the more it slips away, retreating just out of reach. The Stoics used a different word to describe the highest aim of life: eudaimonia. This word is often translated as happiness, but it carries a deeper meaning. It refers to a state of flourishing, a life lived in accordance with reason, virtue, and one's true nature. Seneca once wrote, "A good character, not external circumstances, makes life happy." Happiness, in the modern sense, often refers to pleasure, comfort, and the absence of suffering. But these are fragile and transient states. True fulfillment comes not from pleasure, but from purpose. Ask yourself, are you living a life of integrity? Are your actions aligned with your principles? Are you contributing to something greater than yourself? These are the questions that lead to a meaningful life. The Stoics understood that pleasure and comfort are fickle masters. They can be stripped away by fortune, illness, or loss. But purpose endures. If your goal is simply to be happy, what happens when suffering arrives at your doorstep? What happens when you lose someone you love, when illness strikes, or when the weight of life presses down upon you? Does your life suddenly lose meaning? The Stoics would say no, because they never anchored their purpose to something so fragile as emotional pleasure. They anchored it instead to virtue, to reason, and to the pursuit of wisdom. Marcus Aurelius faced endless suffering, betrayal, loss, plague, war. And yet, he wrote in his Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. Happiness cannot be guaranteed, but meaning can be pursued. Purpose lies in responsibility, not pleasure. Life isn't about extracting maximum pleasure. while avoiding maximum pain. It's about carrying the weight of responsibility with dignity. The Stoics remind us that our purpose isn't simply to feel good, it's to be good, to cultivate wisdom in ignorance, to demonstrate courage in fear, to act with justice in conflict, to temper our desires with self-discipline. These virtues form the bedrock of a meaningful life. Ask yourself, is the purpose of a tree merely to exist? Or is it to grow, to bear fruit, to provide shade? In the same way, the purpose of a human life isn't simply to chase pleasurable feelings, it's to grow, to contribute, and to bear the weight of existence with grace. The Stoics were not blind to suffering. In fact, they stared it straight in the face and asked, "What can this teach me? Happiness cannot withstand suffering. It's too fragile. But purpose can endure even in the darkest hours." Viktor Frankl, a modern thinker whose ideas echo Stoic philosophy, wrote, "Those who have a why to live can bear almost any how." The Stoic recognizes that life will not always be pleasant. Pain will come, loss will visit, and death will eventually arrive. But through it all, purpose can remain. When suffering strikes, do you retreat into despair or do you rise to meet it? When comfort is stripped away, do you crumble or do you adapt? When life becomes difficult, do you ask, "Why me?" or do you ask, "What now?" Happiness cannot answer these questions, but purpose can. Pursuit of virtue, the true purpose of life. So if happiness isn't the answer, what is? The Stoics offer us a timeless response. The purpose of life is to live in accordance with virtue. Virtue is not about rigid morality or self-righteousness. It's about aligning your actions, thoughts, and words with reason, wisdom, and justice. It's about becoming someone worthy of respect, not from others but from yourself. When you pursue virtue, you find clarity in confusion. You find strength in weakness. You find peace in chaos. Virtue doesn't promise you happiness, but it promises you something far greater, the unshakable knowledge that you lived well. The question, what's the purpose of life, isn't answered by pursuing fleeting emotional highs. It's answered by building a foundation of meaning, a foundation that can withstand both joy and suffering, victory and loss. Happiness may come and go like sunlight through shifting clouds. But purpose, that is something you can hold on to no matter the weather. So ask yourself, am I living for fleeting pleasures or enduring principles? Am I seeking to feel good or to do good? Am I building a life that can endure the inevitable storms of existence? The Stoic knows happiness is a side effect, not a goal. Seek virtue, pursue wisdom, embrace responsibility, and in doing so, you may just find something far more valuable than happiness. You may find peace. It is an unspoken desire buried deep in the human heart, bliss unending, paradise without effort, happiness without cost. Who wouldn't want that? Who wouldn't wish for a life free from pain, free from fear, free from loss? But let us ask plainly, is such a thing possible? The Stoics would answer without hesitation, no. Not because they were pessimists, but because they were realists. They understood the nature of existence, not as we wish it to be, but as it is. We are not gods. We are not eternal beings floating in a realm of perpetual light and endless joy. We are finite creatures, small and fleeting, mere atoms clinging to a speck of dust hurtling through an infinite cosmos. And yet here we are, thinking, feeling, striving, and suffering. To demand unending bliss from life is not merely unrealistic. It's a rejection of reality itself. It's to look at the vast complexity of existence, with all its chaos and beauty, and say, none of this is enough unless I feel perpetually euphoric. The Stoics teach us that such an expectation is not just childish, it's dangerous. Because when you expect permanent bliss, every moment of discomfort becomes a personal betrayal. Every struggle feels unjust. Every loss feels catastrophic. Seneca said, "You act like mortals in all that you fear, and like immortals in all that you desire." We demand paradise from a world that was never designed to offer it. We exist for a moment, a flicker of consciousness, a brief breath of awareness. Compared to the vast expanse of time and space, our lives are so minuscule they almost seem absurd. Marcus Aurelius often reflected on this, writing, "Think of the immensity of time behind you and the time ahead. Your life is a fleeting instant. What matters is how you use it. When you consider the grand sweep of history, The countless civilizations that have risen and fallen, the countless individuals who have lived and died, it's humbling, but it's also liberating. If we are but atoms on a dust mote, why waste this fleeting existence chasing something as impossible as permanent bliss? Why not instead focus on something achievable, something noble? The Stoics would say, focus on virtue, focus on purpose, focus on living well. There's another trap, not the demand for bliss, but the slow erosion of meaning under a mountain of trivial pursuits. In our modern world, meaning is fractured into countless smaller pieces. We chase promotions, accolades, validation on social media, fleeting pleasures, and short-lived comforts. Each of these things carries a hint of satisfaction, a glimmer of purpose, but only for a moment. And so we hop from one small meaning to another, like a thirsty traveler drinking from puddles instead of seeking the wellspring. The Stoics warned against this scattered pursuit of purpose. Epictetus said, "If you seek truth, do not seek it in the approval of others, nor in fleeting pleasures, but in the alignment of your actions with your principles." Subordinate meanings may feel good temporarily, but they cannot sustain you in the face of suffering. They cannot anchor you when the winds of chaos blow. Only higher meaning, a meaning rooted in virtue and reason, can provide that stability. The modern offer, hedonistic happiness. It's easy to see why so many are drawn to the promise of hedonism. The message is simple. Do what feels good. Avoid what feels bad. Pleasure is marketed as the ultimate goal. Every advertisement whispers the same lie. You're only one purchase away from happiness. But the Stoics saw hedonism for what it truly is, a treadmill. Pleasure is insatiable. The more you feed it, the hungrier it becomes. The moment one desire is satisfied, another rises to take its place. Seneca warned against this trap. It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor. Hedonistic happiness isn't real happiness, it's just distraction. And distractions can only keep suffering at bay for so long. Eventually, reality knocks at your door. The Stoic alternative: embrace reality, build meaning. So, what do we do in the face of this harsh truth? First, we stop demanding paradise from a world that cannot give it. We stop treating life as if it owes us comfort, pleasure, or perpetual happiness. Second, we align ourselves with reality. We accept that suffering is inevitable, that loss is part of life, and that our time here is short. And finally, we build meaning, not on fleeting pleasures, but on enduring principles. Wisdom, the pursuit of clarity and truth. Courage, the strength to face fear and hardship. Justice, the commitment to fairness and integrity. Temperance, the discipline to resist excess and maintain balance. These are the anchors that hold us steady when the waves of life threaten to pull us under. When you stop demanding endless bliss and start accepting reality as it is, something remarkable happens. You become free. Free from the disappointment of unmet expectations. Free from the anxiety of chasing pleasure. Free from the illusion that life owes you paradise. You can face the world with open eyes and an open heart, unburdened by impossible demands. Marcus Aurelius put it perfectly. Do not let the future disturb you. You will meet it, if you have to, with the same weapons of reason which today arm you against the present. You are not owed bliss. You are not guaranteed happiness. But you are given something priceless, the ability to live with courage, to act with integrity, and to pursue wisdom in every moment you are given. Your life is fleeting, yes, but it is also significant, not because it will last forever, but because you decide how to live it. The Stoic does not waste their breath demanding paradise. They do not drown in subordinate meanings or lose themselves in fleeting pleasures. Instead, they stand tall, face reality, and declare, I will live well. I will live with virtue. I will accept what comes. In that acceptance, in that courage, they find something far greater than fleeting bliss. They find peace. When people say, I just want to be happy, they rarely mean what the words suggest. Happiness, in this sense, isn't about endless euphoria or unbroken bliss. It's about the absence of unnecessary suffering. The Stoics understood this deeply. They knew that life is not and cannot be free from pain. Suffering is an inseparable part of the human condition. But there's a difference between necessary suffering, the kind that shapes and teaches us, and unnecessary suffering, which arises from our own illusions, desires, and attachments. What people truly mean when they wish for happiness is this: Please, don't let my suffering be meaningless. Don't let me be crushed under the weight of my own mind. Don't let me drown in chaos and self-inflicted misery. The Stoics never promised freedom from suffering. They promised freedom through it. Epictetus reminded us, man is troubled not by events, but by the view he takes of them. Suffering, according to the Stoics, comes in two forms. 1. External suffering. The unavoidable hardships of life illness, loss, misfortune, and death. 2. Internal suffering. The suffering we create ourselves, anxiety about the future, regret about the past, envy, anger, and attachment to things outside our control. While we cannot always control external suffering, we can control how we respond to it, and we can absolutely reduce internal suffering through discipline, wisdom, and perspective. Why we fear suffering more than we desire pleasure. If you look closely at human behavior, you'll notice something interesting. People are more motivated to avoid pain than they are to seek pleasure. This isn't weakness, it's survival. Our ancestors lived in a world where pain often meant danger, and avoiding it could mean the difference between life and death. But in our modern world, where physical threats are fewer and our suffering is largely psychological, this instinct can misfire. We fear discomfort, we fear embarrassment, we fear failure, and in trying to avoid these smaller pains, we create larger ones, regret, stagnation, and a life devoid of meaning. The Stoics would remind us that some suffering is worth enduring: the discomfort of discipline, the vulnerability of honesty, the fear of trying and failing. These pains are temporary, but the rewards they bring, wisdom, resilience, and growth, are lasting. Necessary suffering is part of life. It is the illness that forces you to slow down, the loss that teaches you the value of love, the challenge that reveals your strength. But unnecessary suffering, that is avoidable. It's the anxiety over things you cannot control. It's the anger over someone else's words. It's the envy of another person's success. It's the regret over a past you cannot change, Marcus Aurelius said it plainly. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. If your suffering comes from trying to control the uncontrollable, you are fighting a losing battle. If your suffering comes from clinging to illusions, you are holding on to chains of your own making. The Stoic does not seek to eliminate all suffering. They seek to eliminate unnecessary suffering. How to avoid needless misery. 1. Focus on what you can control. Stop wasting energy on things outside your sphere of influence. Your mind, your actions, and your responses, that is where your power lies. Reframe your perspective. Ask yourself, is this event truly harmful? Or is it my perception of it that causes pain? Accept reality. Don't resist what cannot be changed. Acceptance isn't resignation, it's clarity. Find meaning in suffering. If suffering must come, let it serve a purpose. Learn from it. Grow through it. 5. Live with integrity. Much unnecessary suffering comes from living out of alignment with your values. Act with honesty, courage, and virtue. The Stoics knew that some suffering is unavoidable, but what they refused to tolerate was stupid. Suffering caused by ignorance, impulsivity, or self-deception. Seneca wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." How much of your suffering exists only in your mind? How many sleepless nights, racing thoughts, and anxious moments are caused by scenarios that never actually happen? To live wisely is to strip away these illusions, to stop tormenting yourself with unnecessary fears and misplaced desires. In our culture, we are often sold the idea that a comfortable life is a good life, that if we can just minimize discomfort and maximize pleasure, we'll be happy. But the Stoics knew better. True happiness, eudaimonia, is not found in perpetual comfort. It is found in the resilience that comes from facing suffering head-on, in the clarity that comes from accepting reality, and in the peace that comes from acting with integrity. To seek a life without suffering is to seek a life without growth, without meaning, and ultimately, without purpose. When you say, "I just want to be happy," stop and ask yourself, do I mean happiness, or do I mean freedom from meaningless suffering? The Stoics invite us to aim higher than mere happiness. They invite us to seek wisdom over ignorance, courage over fear, justice over selfishness, temperance over excess. Happiness may visit you along the way, It may arrive as a guest, unexpected and fleeting, but it cannot be the destination. The real goal is not to avoid all suffering, but to suffer well, to endure hardship with dignity, to face loss with gratitude, to meet challenges with resilience. In doing so, you'll discover something far better than happiness, peace with yourself, and harmony with the world. So do not ask for a life without suffering. Ask for the strength to bear it well, for in that strength lies the key to a life worth living. Dostoevsky, in his notes from Underground, captured something profoundly true about human nature, something the Stoics understood centuries before him. Comfort, pleasure, and abundance do not satisfy the deeper cravings of the human spirit. Imagine a perfect utopia, every stomach full, every thirst quenched, every desire instantly gratified. There is no hunger, no conflict, no uncertainty, just a steady hum of endless bliss. On the surface, it sounds like paradise, but Dostoevsky warns us of an unsettling truth. Human beings would destroy it. Not out of malice, not out of madness, but out of something deeply embedded in our nature. A restlessness, a hunger for meaning, for challenge, for something more. The Stoics would nod in agreement. They understood that comfort without purpose is not paradise. It is a prison. If pleasure, abundance, and the avoidance of discomfort were the keys to happiness, then why do we see so many who have everything still suffering from dissatisfaction, anxiety, and despair? Because the human spirit was not built for passive comfort. It was built for engagement with reality. Seneca wrote, "It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare. It is because we do not dare that things are difficult." In a world where every need is met effortlessly, what happens to our courage? To our resilience? To our capacity for sacrifice and discipline? They atrophy. They wither away in the face of endless ease. Struggle, hardship, and adversity, these are not enemies to be avoided at all costs. They are teachers. They are the forge in which our character is tempered and our strength is revealed. Marcus Aurelius knew this well. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. In other words, the obstacles we face are not just random inconveniences, they are opportunities for growth. But in a world where every obstacle has been removed, where every desire is satisfied before it's even fully felt, we are robbed of those opportunities. We are left with nothing to strive for, nothing to overcome, and ultimately, nothing to live for. The human spirit craves the unexpected. Dostoevsky's image of humans smashing their utopia with sticks is not a vision of self-destructive madness. It's a vision of rebellion against stagnation. We cannot thrive in a world where nothing unexpected happens, where every day blends seamlessly into the next, and where existence becomes a monotonous hum of pleasure. We need surprise. We need challenge. We need risk. The Stoics understood this dynamic tension in the human condition. They didn't seek to eliminate all discomfort. They sought to make peace with it, to embrace it as a natural part of life. Epictetus said, "Don't hope that events will turn out the way you want. Welcome events in whichever way they happen. This is the path to peace." We do not need a utopia free from discomfort. We need the capacity to meet discomfort with courage and wisdom. But what of Dostoevsky's point about human ingratitude? Why do we seem so quick to destroy the very comforts we claim to desire? It's because comfort is not enough. The human spirit isn't just a creature of appetite, it's a creature of meaning. A full stomach cannot replace a sense of purpose. A soft bed cannot replace a reason to wake up in the morning. An easy life cannot replace a life well lived. When humans are stripped of challenge, when they are given everything without effort, they lose something essential, the chance to earn their own dignity. The Stoics understood gratitude not as a fleeting emotion, but as a discipline. Marcus Aurelius would remind himself daily of the things he had to be grateful for. Even in the midst of war, betrayal, and illness, gratitude keeps us grounded. It prevents restlessness from turning into mindless destruction. But it does not eliminate the need for striving. A world without suffering, without challenge, without uncertainty, it sounds ideal. But the Stoics knew that such a world would not make us happy. It would make us empty. Seneca wrote, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials." If you take away every source of friction, you take away every opportunity for growth. In the end, it's not just about avoiding suffering, it's about finding meaning through suffering. The Stoics did not resent hardship. they respected it. They did not flee from discomfort, they faced it head-on. Meaning is found in striving, the pursuit of a perfect, pain-free existence is not just futile, it's self-defeating. The Stoics teach us that true fulfillment comes from striving toward a goal worthy of our effort, facing obstacles with courage, accepting hardship as a natural part of existence, acting with integrity no matter the circumstances. A life devoid of these challenges is not a life. Worth living, it's a slow death wrapped in silk sheets. Dostoevsky's smashing stick isn't an act of madness, it's an act of rebellion against stagnation. The call to action, embrace the struggle. What then should we aim for if not utopia? We should aim to live in accordance with virtue, to pursue wisdom over ignorance, to practice courage in the face of fear, to act justly even when it's difficult, to maintain discipline in a world of indulgence. The goal is not to eliminate suffering, it's to suffer well. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. The vision of a utopian world, free from discomfort and filled with endless pleasure, is a seductive one, but it is also a hollow one. The Stoics remind us, growth requires struggle. Wisdom requires hardship. Fulfillment requires purpose. So reject the illusion of endless comfort. Reject the false promise of utopia. Instead, embrace the world as it is, messy, uncertain, and challenging. Lean into the struggle, find meaning in the hardship, and remember, the goal is not perpetual bliss, but a life of integrity, courage, and wisdom. For in that striving, in that engagement with reality, you will find something far greater than fleeting pleasure. You will find peace. The Garden of Eden, a timeless story, endlessly interpreted, endlessly relevant. At its heart lies a profound truth about human nature. We are not creatures designed merely for comfort and safety. We are creatures built for adventure. Why did humanity eat the forbidden fruit? Why do we reach beyond what is safe and known, even at great personal cost? Because within us burns a spark, a restless drive to explore, to strive, to grow. It's not obvious that we want happiness. It's not even obvious that we want to avoid misery entirely. What is obvious is that we crave an adventure so meaningful, so compelling, that even the inevitable suffering of life feels worthwhile. The Stoics understood this. They knew that life is not meant to be a smooth road leading to a predictable paradise. It's meant to be a journey, a test, an odyssey into the unknown. What is an adventure? An adventure isn't just an exciting moment or a temporary thrill. It's a path filled with uncertainty, risk, and the possibility of failure. It's a journey where the outcome is unknown and the stakes are real. Seneca wrote, "It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare. It is because we do not dare that things are difficult." The call to adventure is not just about external challenges. It's about internal transformation. It's about stepping into the unknown, even when fear grips your chest. It's about embracing responsibility even when it feels heavy. It's about pursuing meaning even when it's hard to see the path ahead. This is what makes suffering worthwhile. It's not the absence of hardship, it's the presence of purpose. Letting go of certainty. One of the most frightening yet liberating truths about life is this: you cannot know what will happen next. You might lose everything tomorrow. You might achieve something unimaginable. You might suffer greatly, or you might find unexpected joy. And yet, despite this uncertainty, we are called to act, to choose, and to live. Marcus Aurelius reflected on this in his Meditations. Don't let the future disturb you. You will meet it if you have to, with the same weapons of reason which today arm you against the present. The adventure of life requires letting go of the need for total control. It requires trust, not in external outcomes, but in your ability to face whatever comes with courage and integrity. Adventure demands that you surrender your obsession with guarantees. You cannot know the ending, but you can choose how you show up for the story. It's not just about the adventure, it's about who is having it. If you are living in truth, if you are acting in alignment with your principles and values, then it's you who is having the adventure, not some hollow version of you playing a role to please others. When you act with integrity, every struggle, every obstacle, and every triumph belongs to you. The Stoics invite you to face this adventure with open arms. Embrace uncertainty. Accept hardship. Live in truth. For in doing so, you will not just endure life, you will live it. And when the end comes, you'll look back and know It was worth it. The Stoics often reminded us that the most important journey we'll ever undertake isn't an external voyage, it's an internal one. The adventure of life isn't just something that happens to you, it's something you become. At the heart of this adventure lies one undeniable truth. It is you who must walk the path. If you are living truthfully, if your actions, words, and intentions are aligned with your principles, then the adventure is yours. You are not a passive spectator watching life unfold. You are the active protagonist, the central character in a story that only you can write. And that truth, the truth you live by, is you. Truth is not just a principle, it's an identity. To live in truth is not simply to avoid lies or deceit. It is to act in harmony with your own deepest values. Epictetus said, "First, tell yourself what kind of person you want to be, and then do what you must do." Living in truth is not an external performance, it's an internal alignment. Are your actions consistent with your values? Are your words a reflection of your beliefs? Are your intentions clean and honest? When you live this way, you are not fragmented, you are whole. And that wholeness allows you to face life's adventure with clarity and resilience. This isn't just about morality, it's about identity. When you live in truth, you become the adventure. Are your actions consistent with the mirror of retrospection? At the end of a day, a week, a month, or even a life, you will inevitably find yourself in front of an internal mirror. You'll ask, did I live with courage? Did I face hardship with integrity? Did I act with wisdom even when it was difficult? You want to look into that mirror and be able to say, yes, it was difficult. Yes, there was suffering. But it was worth it. Marcus Aurelius reflected on this often. In his meditations, he wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." The adventure isn't something you merely endure, it's something you own. Every difficulty, every obstacle, every moment of doubt becomes part of your story. And if you face them truthfully, they become your victories. An easy life doesn't make for a meaningful story. It doesn't make for an adventure worth remembering. The moments that will define your life aren't the ones spent in comfort. They're the ones where you stood firm in the face of hardship, where you acted despite fear, where you persevered when everything in you wanted to stop. The Stoics teach us that the value of an adventure isn't measured by how easy it was, but by how true you remain to your principles along the way. Seneca wrote, "Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body." Hardship, then, isn't just something to be avoided, it's something to be embraced, because it is through difficulty that the adventure becomes worthwhile. At the end of a challenging day, you want to be able to sit down and say, "That was hard. That was uncertain. But it was mine, and it was worth it." That feeling doesn't come from avoiding discomfort, it comes from facing it. That feeling doesn't come from avoiding discomfort, it comes from facing it. From speaking the truth when it would have been easier to stay silent. From standing firm when it would have been easier to fold. From carrying your burden without resentment, even when it was heavy. When you live this way, you aren't just surviving, you're thriving. Not in the hedonistic sense of constant pleasure, but in the deep, meaningful sense of living in alignment with who you truly are. And that alignment, that integrity, that truth, that is you. When you step back and look at your life, not just at the good days, but at the hard ones, the painful ones, the ones where you wanted to give up, you'll notice something profound. It was you who carried yourself through. It was you who stood up after being knocked down. It was you who chose to act with courage when fear whispered in your ear. It was you who kept walking when the path seemed impossible. And because it was you, because you met life with truth and integrity, it was worth it. The Stoics didn't promise us an easy life. They promised us a meaningful one. Epictetus said, "No great thing is created suddenly, nor is it achieved without effort. The effort, the hardship, the uncertainty, it's all part of the adventure. And when you live truthfully, it's an adventure worth having." Imagine yourself at the end of your life, looking back at the path you've walked. What do you want to see? Do you want to see safety and comfort, or do you want to see bravery and growth? Do you want to see years of avoidance or moments of courage? Do you want to see a life spent running from suffering, or a life where suffering was transformed into meaning? The Stoics remind us that regret is one of the heaviest burdens to carry, but a life lived in truth, a life where the adventure was yours, is a life without regret. You'll be able to say, "Yes, it was hard, Yes, it was uncertain, but it was mine, and it was worth it. You are not just having the adventure, you are the adventure. The truth you live by, the integrity you uphold, the courage you show in the face of fear. These are the things that make your life yours. Don't seek a life free from hardship. Don't wish for a smooth and easy path. Instead, seek a life where, when you look back, you can say with conviction, "That was difficult, but it was worth it. Because I was true to myself, and I faced it all with courage and integrity." The adventure is yours. Live it fully. Live it truthfully. And let every moment, good or bad, become part of a story worth telling. Where do you find the great adventure of your life? Is it in distant lands, grand achievements, or fleeting moments of pleasure? Perhaps. But the Stoics, along with the deepest thinkers throughout history, would suggest a different answer. You find the great adventure of your life in truth. Why truth? Because truth is not static. It's not predictable. It's not something you can fully map out before you begin. When you commit to telling the truth, to living in truth, you step onto a path filled with uncertainty, challenge, and possibility. And that's what makes it an adventure. When you tell the truth, you surrender control over the outcome. You give up the comfort of rehearsed lies, predictable responses, and safe facades. Truth disrupts. Truth challenges. Truth sets events into motion that you cannot fully predict or control. Epictetus said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." Telling the truth might cost you relationships, opportunities, or approval, but it also frees you. Free from the weight of deception. Free from the fear of being discovered as a fraud. Free from the exhausting task of maintaining a facade. When you tell the truth, life unfolds in unexpected ways. New paths open, old ones close, and the adventure begins. Not because you planned it, but because you stepped into it. Truth as the map and compass. The Stoics believed that living in alignment with virtue was the surest way to navigate the complexities of life. And at the center of virtue lies truthfulness. Living in truth is not just about speaking. Honestly, it's about aligning your entire being with what is real and authentic. Are you being honest with yourself about your fears, desires, and limitations? Are you being honest with others, even when it's uncomfortable? Are you facing reality as it is, not as you wish it to be? When you live in truth, you don't always know what will happen next. But you can be sure of one thing: you are walking a path worth traveling. The Stoics remind us that truth is not always easy, but it is always right. An adventure without uncertainty isn't an adventure at all. It's a scripted play. What makes an adventure thrilling isn't just the peaks of triumph, but the valleys of uncertainty, the storms of doubt, and the moments where the outcome hangs in the balance. When you tell the truth, you invite uncertainty into your life. You risk rejection. You risk failure. You risk loss. But you also open yourself to growth, connection, and transformation. Seneca wrote, "The man who has anticipated the coming of troubles takes away their power when they arrive." By embracing truth, you prepare yourself to meet whatever comes, not with fear, but with clarity and strength. When you tell the truth, you set events into motion that could not have happened otherwise. A difficult conversation might heal a broken relationship. An honest admission might open doors you never expected. A moment of vulnerability might inspire others to do the same. The adventure of truth is not just about avoiding lies. It's about creating something real. It's about letting life unfold as it should, rather than trying to force it into a shape that feels safe and predictable. Marcus Aurelius captured this beautifully. Never let the future disturb you. You will meet it if you have to, with the same reason you use today. What happens when you avoid the adventure of truth? You may gain temporary comfort, but you lose something far more valuable: yourself. You lose your integrity. You lose your clarity. You lose the sense that your life is authentically yours. A life built on avoidance is not an adventure. It's a slow retreat into mediocrity and regret. The Stoics would remind us, better to fail in truth than to succeed in deception. Truth and the mirror of reflection. At the end of your life, when you look back, you won't just see the results of your actions, you'll see the intentions behind them. Did you tell the truth, even when it was hard? Did you face life honestly, without flinching from reality? Did you live a life that was yours, not someone else's idea of who you should be? When you live in truth, your life becomes an adventure worth remembering, Because every hardship, every triumph, every loss becomes part of a story that was real. And that's what makes it worth it. Truth makes the adventure yours. The great adventure of life isn't about avoiding suffering or maximizing comfort. It's about living in such a way that every moment carries meaning, and meaning is found in truth. Truth in your words, truth in your actions, truth in your character. When you live this way, the adventure isn't just something that happens to you. It becomes something you actively create. The Stoics teach us that life's greatest victories aren't always external, they are internal. They happen in the quiet moments when you choose truth over convenience, integrity over compromise, and courage over fear. You will never fully know what lies ahead when you tell the truth. But that's what makes it an adventure. The great adventure of your life begins the moment you stop clinging to certainty and start embracing truth as your guide. Speak honestly even when it's uncomfortable. Act with integrity even when it's costly. Face reality even when it's painful. Because at the end of the road, when you look back on your life, you want to be able to say, I didn't always know what would happen, but I told the truth. I stayed aligned with what was real. And because of that, my life was mine, and it was worth it. That's the adventure. That's the path. And that's the life worth living. In the still moments of introspection, when you sit quietly with your thoughts and examine your life, you might stumble upon an unsettling realization. Are you truly living your adventure, or is something else living it through you? How deception makes you miserable. You might ask, why am I so miserable and unhappy? The answer is simple, because you're not truly there. When deception runs your life, you are absent from your own story. The choices being made aren't yours. They're the choices of fear, avoidance, and self-protection. You avoid difficult conversations because deception tells you it's safer to stay silent. You make compromises on your values because deception whispers that it's the easier path. You pretend to be someone you're not because deception convinces you that the real you isn't good enough, and in doing so, you disappear. What remains is an illusion, a hollow, fragile version of yourself, built on lies and fear. How do you reclaim your adventure from the spirit of deception? 1. Start with brutal honesty. Look at your life with unflinching clarity. Where are the lies? Where are the evasions? Where have you compromised your integrity? 2. Take responsibility. Accept that while deception may have taken hold, you allowed it in. This isn't about shame, it's about ownership. I speak the truth even when it hurts. Truth is a cleansing fire. It might burn at first, but it purifies. Start small if you must, but start. Or align your actions with your values. Ask yourself, what do I truly believe? What kind of person do I want to be? Then act accordingly. 5. Practice discipline. Deception often thrives in weakness and indulgence. Discipline strengthens your mind and builds resilience against its pull. The Stoics remind us that the only way to live freely is to live truthfully. Marcus Aurelius said, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." Deception pollutes your thoughts. It clouds your judgment. It erodes your sense of self. Truth, on the other hand, is clarity. It's light breaking through the fog. It's the path back to you. The adventure of life, your adventure, can only be yours if truth is at the helm. Who is having your adventure? Ask yourself honestly, am I living my adventure? Or is something else living it through me? If you feel like a stranger in your own life, if every day feels like a performance, if your choices feel hollow, then perhaps the spirit of deception has taken the wheel. But you can take it back. The first step is simple, but it's not easy. Tell the truth. Live in truth. Face the truth. When you do this, the adventure becomes yours again. The victories will be yours. The hardships will be yours. The meaning will be yours. And when you look back at your life, you'll no longer feel like an observer watching someone else's story. You'll be able to say, that was difficult. That was uncertain. But it was mine. And it was worth it. The spirit of deception cannot create meaning. It can only distort it. But truth can build something real, something worth living for. Choose truth. Choose your adventure. So the choice lies before you. Will you surrender your life to fear, deception, and avoidance? Or will you step boldly into the unknown, face your fears, and speak the truth no matter the cost? The adventure is yours to claim. Live it fully. Live it truthfully. And when the end comes, let it be said, that was difficult. But it was worth it. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one, the path of truth, of integrity, of courage. It's not something to be debated endlessly. It's something to be lived. So go, face the world, speak the truth, and write a story worthy of your soul. Life is not a safe harbor, it's an open sea. Truth is your compass, courage is your sail, and meaning is the distant shore. You will face storms, uncertainty, and darkness. But if you stay true, if you walk the path of truth, the adventure will be yours, and it will be worth it. Thank you.